We've been led to believe that happiness comes from being with someone else, that we need a soulmate to feel complete, and that if we haven't gotten married by a certain age, there must be something wrong with us. All of that is a lie, falsehood, and pure social conditioning. All of that is emotional garbage. That's why in this episode we're going to explore 5 powerful steps so you can stop depending on someone else to be happy. So get ready, because we're going to question beliefs and awaken your self-love so you can reconnect with it and start your own journey toward fulfillment. Have you ever felt lonely even when you're surrounded by people? Or on the other hand, have you ever felt at peace even if no one is near you? This difference is key because being alone is a physical fact, while feeling lonely is an emotional state. And they're not the same thing. You can choose to make your alone time your refuge instead of your torment. That's why step 1 is to redefine what loneliness means to you and the belief you hold about it. And being alone is not the same as feeling lonely. Imagine loneliness as a quiet night full of stars. At first glance, it may seem empty and dark, but if you look closely, it's full of its own light. And in the same way, your moments alone can be full of you, your thoughts, your creativity, your essence. So instead of being afraid of your loneliness, embrace it as if it were a friend. Ask yourself, what can I discover about myself in this silence? How can I make the most of this time? Because sometimes that silence and that time alone with yourself will be the best opportunity to find the answers you've been searching for, answers that the noise of the world doesn't let you hear. Every time you feel lonely because you're single or spending time alone, remember this phrase: you will never feel lonely if you like the person you're with when you're alone. In other words, you won't feel lonely if you're in good company with yourself. Loneliness is not your enemy, nor is it a failure or a punishment. It's actually an opportunity because it's a space to connect with yourself. Loneliness and being single are the path to getting to know the most important person in your life. I'm talking about you. And by planning that new belief, that's when your healing and your liberation begin. Do you realize this? I hope so. Step 2 is to break the myth that being alone is a failure. They've sold us the story of the other half so much that even though many people today say they know they're already whole, the reality is that they act very differently. As if we were born incomplete people until someone else comes to complete us or fill us up. Enough of that myth already, because you're not half of anything. You are a complete person. And even though there may be parts of you that you do need to work on, rebuild, evolve, or simply heal, the truth is you don't need another person to be a valuable person. Being single is not synonymous with being an incomplete person, nor with having failed at something. Who told you that your worth depends on your marital status? Society, and even our own family, sometimes looks with pity at those who don't have a partner, as if we were missing a part of ourselves. But the reality is very different. Your worth doesn't decrease or increase because you're with someone or not. Not having a partner doesn't mean being alone in life. And it certainly doesn't mean being unhappy. In fact, there are people who have a partner and feel lonelier than ever. So, what does happiness and that state of satisfaction and inner peace really depend on? Not on marital status, but on a state of being, a state of consciousness. Happiness is not an exclusive club for those who are in a relationship. Happiness is a state that comes from the inside out. And there are several formulas or different paths to build that happiness. There's not just one, no matter what we've been led to believe. And when you break free from the belief that being alone is a failure, you realize something very healing and very liberating. That you don't need anyone else for you to be happy. Imagine this. Imagine that your happiness is like a house. If you build that house on someone else's approval or company, then any earthquake like a breakup or an absence will bring it down. On the other hand, if you build your happiness meaning that house on solid foundations of who you are, that house will stand firm through any storm. If you don't know how to make yourself happy, no one else will be able to do it for you. So choose the people in your life as companions on your journey, not as your reason for existing. You are already enough, so allow yourself to believe it, and you'll notice how the fear of being alone because you don't have a partner fades away. Step 3 is to cultivate your self-love and become your own best company. Once you start to see that being alone isn't a bad thing and you begin to see it in a new light, what I think is the most beautiful step comes next, which is learning to love yourself. This might sound like a cliche and I know it, but it's fundamental. I'm talking about cultivating such a strong self-love that you're able to give yourself everything you used to expect from others. And how do you do this? Starting with small daily acts. Start by taking care of your internal narrative, that is, that voice in your head that sometimes criticizes and judges you harshly, so you can start turning it into a voice that supports you, helps you, comforts you, and motivates you. Ask yourself, when you notice yourself talking to yourself, if you would talk that way to your best friend. If the answer is no, change it instantly and talk to yourself the way you would talk to that best friend. Take care of yourself, treat yourself the way you would treat a loved one. At first, it might feel uncomfortable or strange or even a bit cheesy, but over time, you'll fall in love with those moments with yourself and you'll understand that you have yourself. Imagine that your love is like water in a glass. If your glass is empty, you'll desperately look for someone else to come and fill it, but you'll still be left thirsty. But if you fill that glass every day with small drops of care, respect, and affection, you'll never be thirsty for love, and all the water that overflows from that glass will be for sharing, so you won't have to beg for it. Another powerful way to cultivate self-love is to follow through. Keep your own promises. If you say you're going to exercise, for example, do it for yourself. If you plan a movie night alone, follow through. If you say you don't want to go out and you don't want to drink, even if they insist, stick to it. If you want to, for example, take a course to heal something inside you, do it, invest in yourself. That way, your subconscious will learn that it can trust you, that it can count on you, that you take care of yourself, that you respect yourself. In that way, little by little, you will build a relationship based on trust and respect, just like the one you would want to have with a partner, but with yourself. Remember that the longest and deepest relationship in your life will always be the one you have with yourself. So I recommend that you make it your best love story. Become that person who gives yourself love, support, and encouragement every step of the way, because at the end of the day, you will always be with yourself no matter what happens until your last breath. If you manage to find happiness in your own company, let it give you peace and help you understand that you can handle anything, then you will have won the game. For that, starting today, ask yourself what you could do differently to treat yourself with more love than you have given yourself before. I'm going to pause here before we continue with this episode to tell you something that could make a difference. Ya, si estás buscando vivir con más calma y you're at that point in your life where you want to start organizing your finances to achieve your personal, professional, and family goals and to invest, but without it being too complicated or needing too much expertise or requiring a lot of money from you. In the BBVA app, within the opportunities section, there's a tool called BBVA Invest. It's a 100% digital advisor that, with just a few simple questions about you, your goals, and your experience on the subject, helps you understand your investment profile and suggests a path to start making your first investment. Check it out at BBVA MX, BBVA Invest, and you'll realize that you don't need to be an expert. You also don't need to be afraid of risks or spend hours researching. It's the best way to do it because BBVA Invest will guide you through the whole process. If this resonates with you, entonces quizás sea una herramienta que puedas sumar a lo que ya estás construyendo. Y ahora sí, let's get back to the episode. Step 4. Fill your life with purpose, joy, and well-being. When you no longer see loneliness as an enemy and you nurture yourself with self-love, you discover something very important. Your life is full of possibilities. This step is about connecting with what gives meaning and joy to your existence without depending on a relationship. So it's time to turn your attention to yourself, to your passions, to your goals, and to your dreams. What makes you feel alive? What makes you lose track of time because you enjoy doing it so much? That could be a path toward your purpose. For example, maybe you've always liked painting or writing or dancing or learning or traveling. Well, then do it. You don't need to do everything at once or immediately, but don't wait for that special person. Para compartir esa experiencia. That special person for you will come to share your interests and your sense of fulfillment. When you fill your days with activities and goals that you like, that excite you, and that get you out of bed with excitement. Loneliness stops being an empty space and instead becomes like a canvas where you paint your life with the colors you want. Think of your life as a movie. In that movie, you are the main character. You don't need a romantic co-star for the story to be interesting. You already have a story worth telling. Your achievements, everything you've overcome, your adventures, your growth, and your lessons. Every time you focus on your purpose, meaning what you're passionate about or the goals you want to achieve, you give more depth to that story and to that movie. And if in the future someone comes along to share the scene with you, that would be amazing, but your story doesn't have to wait for anyone to develop. Besides your purpose, try to enjoy the little things. Maybe a coffee in the morning, a walk in the park, a good book, a class, a chat with a friend, playing with your dog, whatever brings a smile to your face. Well-being is built, especially when you appreciate those moments. When you appreciate life like that, you understand that peace, happiness, and satisfaction don't require big things, nor do they have to be expensive. And that it's not a destination someone else takes you to, but a collection of moments that you create. And as step 5, you have to learn to live with emotional independence in order to love from a place of wholeness. This last step is rather the beginning of your new way of living and loving, emotional independence. This means that even though you can love others deeply, your happiness won't be held hostage by anyone. Have you learned to be okay with yourself, to break down myths, to nourish yourself with self-love with these steps I'm giving you? And now, any relationship you choose in the future should be by choice, not by necessity. And this completely changes the rules of the game in love. For you, when you live from a place of fulfillment, you realize that being in a relationship is a choice and not a lifeline. So you no longer look for someone to complete you or rescue you because you're not incomplete or suffering. Instead of two halves trying to fit together better, imagine that they are two complete circles that decide to come together a bit to share that journey. They are still circles individually and fully, but they share much of what they have. Each one is whole, but together they create something beautiful. Without ceasing to be who they are, that is the ideal of healthy, beautiful love. Sharing without losing yourself and seeking what's best for both of you without sacrificing your own well-being. Think of someone you know, or maybe yourself, who after some time learned to value themselves and upon entering a relationship was able to set healthy boundaries. Enjoying their own alone time, respecting the other person's alone time, building as a team without stopping working on themselves. That person understood that love doesn't mean merging and losing yourself for the other person, but rather being on the same wavelength, hand in hand, looking and walking in the same direction. You can also get to that point where a relationship adds to your happiness, but your happiness doesn't depend on that relationship. Living with love without having a partner is absolutely possible because you carry love within yourself. It's in your daily actions, in how you treat yourself, in how you talk to yourself, in how you treat others, all from how you feel inside. Just think about this. Have you noticed how the quality of love you give changes when you feel happy on your own? It's no longer a needy or anxious kind of love, it's more like a beautiful, abundant, and generous love, because it comes from your fulfillment, not from your emptiness. Don't look for someone to complete you. Look for someone to share the wholeness you create for yourself. And at this point, I want to invite you to deeply reflect on a question I'm going to ask you. Who are you when no one is with you? If you have followed these steps and do it for a while, the answer will be, I am exactly who I want to be with or without a partner. And that is one of the most liberating and powerful feelings you will ever experience. Being single does not mean being an empty person. On the contrary, it can mean that you are simply full of who you are, your love, your dreams, and your life. And that's quite a lot. Solitude can be a gift. Being single can be a teacher that shows you how strong you really are when you think you're not. So I want you to keep this idea in mind. The person who will never leave you and who will be with you every moment until your last day is you, not someone else. So it's worth making this relationship with yourself the most beautiful one of your life. If you learn to love yourself and to feel complete in your own company, no loneliness will be able to defeat you and no breakup or heartbreak will be able to hurt you. And any love that comes along will be an addition for companionship and by choice, not out of necessity. Now I would like to know more about you. How does it feel to imagine that life where you are the source of your own peace, satisfaction, and happiness? What questions do you have? What do you want to know? Other things come up. Each question is a doorway to your growth. And having said that, thank you for coming this far with me, and especially for giving yourself this space for your own growth and your heart. If you feel that this is it, if this is just the beginning and you want more, leave me a comment that says the words, I want more. I will be reading and ready to keep working with you on the topics you need along this journey of self-love and fulfillment. Subscribe to the channel and see you in the next episode.